All right, let's do that. I'm going to make sure. Did we have potentially Rex was going to be sitting in? I don't see Rex on the call.
I didn't get confirmation. That was what Amanda had said was a possibility if it was going to work for Rex's schedule. So
okay. So am I right that I just see Leslie and Ken from the committee on, and
Susan and Margaret are here. Commissioner Magruder.
Terrific. Okay. All right, let's start with introductions on the committee. I'm Barrett Brown, chair of the committee now. I represent recreation interests and motorized recreation in particular. Let me hand off to Ken. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, morning, everybody. Ken McCall with Oregon Hunters Association. Signed on as a kind of an at-large with a major interest in recreation. Thanks.
You bet. Leslie, have we got you on the audio?
Hi. Is it working?
We got you.
Oh, good. Because I broke my phone. So I represent recreation like Ken, and I'm happy to see everybody.
Terrific. Susan, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Susan Knutson Obermeyer, and I'm a member at large. I have a background in forestry and fire and collaboratives. That's about it.
All right. And Margaret, go right ahead.
Good morning, Margaret Magruder, Columbia County Commissioners. I represent the Council of Forest Trust Lands. And Mr. Chairman, I will have to get off the meeting at 11 o'clock. So when I leave, it's not because I don't like you and enjoy it, but because I have another commitment. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you, Commissioner. I think that's it for committee attendance. I know it was tough for some people this month. So
Barrett, I see Mike Kennedy.
Yep, I was just gonna say Mike Kennedy's here.
Oh, terrific. Yeah, there. Thanks, Mike. Go ahead.
Federated Tribes of Siletz Indians. I'm the natural resource manager.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Have I missed anybody else in my Hollywood Squares of view here? Terrific. Ron, why don't you start staff introductions by way of, as a convener, and go as deep as you want to with the staff.
Yeah, great.
We normally like to have introductions from the entire staff. I'll just leave it to you for. Yeah,
we've got several folks here that are going to be presenting, so I want to definitely touch on all of them. So good morning, everyone. Ron Zilli, Deputy Division Chief of Planning for State Forests, one of the co-conveners of the committee. Go to Andy next.
All right, good morning, everybody. Andy White, Northwest Oregon Area Director, and the other co-convener for the State Forest Advisory Committee. And I will move it to Colleen.
Hi, my name is Colleen Kaiser, and I am the Planning Manager for the State Forest Division.
I'm going to go to Liz next, and then I'll run through who I know the presenters are for sure. So Liz, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Liz Dent, and I serve as the State Forest Division Chief. Just want to express my appreciation and gratitude to the members of SFAC, and just emphasize for you all how important your dialogue and conversations and feedback is for the division and for the agency as a whole. So appreciate everyone being here, and particularly with the special meeting. So thanks for fitting that into your calendars. I know everyone's kind of chasing their tails on meetings these days, so thank you for that. And then related, obviously, to that is the topic of the day. So we're really kind of testing the grounds of another way to get public input, stakeholder input from our county partners on our operations. So a little bit of new territory for us, and so I think you're going to help us figure out how that's going to work and what works well and what doesn't. So thanks.
Thanks, Liz. Let's go to Kyle Kopp.
Hey, good morning, all. My name is Kyle Kopp. I'm the acting Stadium Unit Manager of the North Cascade District, Oregon Department of Forestry.
Austin.
Hello, my name is Austin Dixon, and I'm a planning coordinator for the North Cascade District.
John Walter.
Hi, my name is John Walter. I'm covering Young Stand Management. I had been on North Cascade, and now I'm currently working out of the Salem office.
Great. Thanks, John. Jamal.
Hello, good morning. Jamal Reb, Recreation Planning Coordinator.
Sarah.
Good morning. I'm Sarah Deardahl, the Aquatic and Riparian Specialist for the division.
Dax.
Morning, my name is Dax Strub. I'm one of a few wildlife biologists in the State Forest Division.
Tyson.
Hi all, I'm Tyson Weprick. I'm the Adaptive Management and Monitoring Specialist, and I work out of Salem.
Denise.
Good morning. I'm Denise Berkshire, Interpretation and Education Coordinator, and I am based out of the Tillamook Forest Center.
Great. Jason.
There we go. Good morning, Jason Cox, ODF Public Affairs.
Okay, great. How about Laura?
Good morning, everyone. Laura Fredrickson. Good to see everyone this morning. I am the Recreation, Education, and Interpretation Manager for State Forest, situated in the Northwest Oregon area office in Forest Grove.
Okay. Robbie.
Morning, everyone. My name is Robbie Lefebvre, and I'm the assistant for Northwest Oregon area.
Okay, great. Got a couple other, staff here from districts. We've got Astoria's district forester here, Dan.
Hi, guys. Hopefully I'm not presenting, Ron. I am not prepared.
No, you're good. No, you're not a presenter, but I think we've got just a couple more to run through. Just a couple folks left. Michael Curran.
Good morning, everybody. Michael Curran. I'm the district forester for ODF's West Oregon District.
Great. How about Jody Kroon?
Morning, Jody Kroon, planner in the Planning and Coordination Division.
Okay, great. We also have a couple other county commissioners here today, so give them a chance to introduce themselves. We'll start with Leanne Thompson.
Thank you. Sticking close to home, huh, Ryan? Leanne Thompson, Clatsop County Commissioner. No official role, just an abiding affection and respect for the forest and the forestry folk. Thank you.
Great. And then we've got Kevin Cameron.
Yeah, good morning. Kevin Cameron, Marion County Commissioner. Obviously interested in the state forest that we're talking about today and the wildfire recovery.
And then as far as the public on present in the meeting goes, I'm seeing Laura Wilkeson is the only one I'm seeing here. So want to go ahead and introduce yourself, Laura?
Hi, sorry, I didn't realize I was going to have to introduce myself. I'm Laura Wilkeson with Hampton Lumber. I'm the State Forest Policy Director for the company.
Okay, great. And we also have Dawn Everingham on here. Sorry, Dawn, I missed you. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
All right, thanks, Ron. Good morning, everyone. Don Everingham, State Forest Operations Manager, based out of the Northwest Oregon area office.
And we haven't got, there's a couple more, so I'll hit them though, just real quickly. Jennifer, I think it'd be good to introduce yourself.
Good morning. I'm Jennifer Magby, Director of the Tillamook Forest Center.
Ty Williams.
Good morning, Ty Williams, District Operations Coordinator on the Astoria District.
And Joe Goldsby.
Good morning, Joe Goldsby, State Forest Unit Manager for Santiam State Forest.
Okay, great. I think that just about covers everyone. And thanks, April Davis, for getting us set up for the meeting as well. All right, so that's it for our roll call. Barrett, turn it over to you for just a official call for public comment.
Sure, we do have a spot here for public comment, which is traditional for our meeting here. I don't know. First of all, just poll. Do we see anybody here who is interested in providing comment to the committee?
A good way to indicate would be to use the raise hand feature.
Yeah, sure.
Or otherwise just say, hi, I'd like to provide comment.
Sure. Okay. And this will be the only formal public comment period during the meeting. So we'll close that invitation now. And we're ready to move forward. Go ahead, Ron. I think we're ready.
Great. Thank you, Barrett. So
with this assemblage of staff, is there any other ODF training you want to take care of in one? We've got the entire org chart here on this meeting. Maybe
it's not a bad idea. I appreciate it. Okay, well, let's get moving, especially so we can get to a place where we've got enough information out there that Commissioner Magruder can share her thoughts, before she leaves. Before we, dive into the presentation that's being, queued up, just wanted to set the stage a little bit here and provide some additional context on what we hope to get out of the meeting today with you. The purpose of the meeting is to give you an update on the post-fire recovery work on the Santiam State Forest and engage with you on a forest management project we're developing, Fern Ridge, to round out the North Cascade District's fiscal year 2022 annual operations plan, what we're calling phase 2 of that plan. It's been just a year since the fires occurred on the North Cascade District, and State Forest Division and the North Cascade District have accomplished a lot of work in that time. During our post-fire recovery efforts, there's been a lot of public interest in our work. Some of it's been controversial as to the appropriate approach to take in the post-fire recovery as a public land manager with a duty to provide social, economic, and environmental benefits to Oregonians. We're going to start the presentation today with Kyle Kopp from the district, providing a summary of what's been accomplished in fiscal year 21, which was just completed last June 30th, and what is planned so far in phase 1 of the fiscal year 2022 annual operations plan. Following his update, he's going to pause for questions to make sure everyone has a good understanding of what's been done to date. We will then shift to a presentation on the Fern Ridge Forest Management Project. This forest management project is in the vicinity of Shellberg Falls, which is a highly valued and heavily used recreation area that was significantly impacted by the Beachy Creek fire. Aspects of this proposed project include resource protection measures, hazard mitigation and public safety, limited post-fire timber harvest, maintaining the recreation area's scenic value in a post-fire environment, and potential education and interpretation opportunities. This project is being developed in a landscape level context that provides social, economic, and environmental benefits to Oregonians. Recognizing the high value the public places on this recreational area and the scenic aspects of Shellberg Falls, and the high level of public interest we've had in our previous post-fire work, we expect that this forest project is going to attract a lot of public interest and potential controversy as we move it forward into implementation. In the past SFAC meetings, you have advised us that we should be engaging, earlier with the public and this committee in our planning process to provide opportunities for meaningful input while the planning decisions are still being, under consideration. We're working through a process of public engagement for this project that's going to occur over the next month and a half, culminating in what we're planning is a 2-week public comment period beginning in early November. This process includes working with this committee, stakeholder groups, our county partners, and the public via an information meeting we plan to schedule prior to that upcoming public comment period in early November. During today's meeting, we want to hear your questions and encourage you to share your ideas and potential points of controversy that you see with us and other committee members, and have a rich discussion about how to refine our plan for this forest management project. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kyle Kopp to give the update on what's been accomplished in fiscal 21 and what's being planned for so far for fiscal 22.
Yeah, thanks, Ron, and good morning again, SVAC members. So Kyle Kopp, acting SANIAM unit manager here on the North Cascade District. So like Ron said, really a lot has happened in the past year. We're just a week past that 1-year anniversary mark post 2020 Labor Day fires, and so wanted to go over some of the work that has been done, some of the work that we're planning. So on this slide, you'll see the FY 2021 accomplishments for the 10 timber sales that we had planned in FY 21. We did end up selling all those. Those are now all auction and active operations. So just under 47 million feet of timber sale operations sold, and that totaled up to be about 1,850 acres of modified clear cut. In those operations, we added roadside hazard tree mitigation, partial cuts along roadsides. Depending on how tall the timber was alongside the road was kind of how we did that prescription, how much we determined those being hazard trees. But about 55 miles of that treatment was done in FY 2021, and that work actually is it's still continuing, but because of the work that we've done in the past year, we're actually working to reopen a large part of the forest back to the public here in the very near future, and feel that it's safe to do so now that that roadside hazard tree work has been done. Across all those 10 timber sales in FY 21, the average stumpage price was just over $460 per 1,000 board feet. So that totals up to over $21 million of revenue, about 2.5-3 times our normal yearly revenue. And after 2020 Labor Day fires, really the counties that needed that revenue for their local services, they'll see about 2/3 of that $21 million. So to date on those operations, we're about 63% volume delivered to date. So that's just over 29 million feet delivered at this point. As far as the roads, a couple pictures on the right there. Just wanted to kind of, that's the top one, first glance at what some of the roads look like post Labor Day fires. The bottom one on the left, kind of a road that's just opened up, just enough to get maybe a pickup through. And then on the right, I thought that was a good picture representing kind of what a safe to travel road after some roadside hazard treatment had been done on it. So about 204 miles of roads have been cleared of debris, bank slough removal, some of that cut bank that fell into the road and blocked it or debris had been cleared out of the way, and then 76 culverts replaced across those 204 miles of road, again, making the roads safe to travel for our employees, our contractors, and the public, and people who want to get back in there once it's safe to do so would be safe to travel along those roads. So as I said, some of the hazard tree removal along roadsides is still continuing. We're also doing some routine road maintenance and rock crushing projects with some of the other active timber sales around the forest. For reforestation in FY 21, I was really impressed with this work. When John Walter, like he said, now he works for our Salem Youngstand management team. He was our reforestation specialist. That him and I had a fairly normal FY 21 reforestation season planned ahead of us prior to the Labor Day fires, and with good coordination and everyone's help, we were able to roughly double that initial acreage plan of 550 to 1,090 acres, with some expanded species diversity and quick work to get those trees planted and open for planting spots. We also did a project that was one of the first of its kind for public forest managers. 4,338 acres of aerial seeding was done with Doug fir, western red cedar, and noble fir seed. And really, we focused the aerial seeding project on areas that were not really economically feasible to harvest, some of the areas that had desired future condition complex structure, draft habitat conservation areas, and really areas that were pretty inaccessible right after the fire, that it was going to take a long time to get roads opened up to even get back in there. We just wanted to get some kind of restoration done quickly on it. Okay, so a slight transition into FY22. So kind of a weird timeline. You know, we're behind the other districts that are in their FY22 planning process, and we are already currently in fiscal year 22, and so we have reforestation being planned for this winter, and a lot of it, 2,700 acres, over 1 million trees coming. To put that into context, for North Cascades normal planting year would be about 500 acres with 250 to 300,000 seedlings. So about quadruple what 4 or 5 times a normal year for us. And we're going to be planting trees across a lot of different age classes. A lot of those, obviously younger age classes that were either open for planting or were damaged in the fire enough to plant right through it. So again, transitioning to the current 22 plan that we're talking about, phase 1, where we're at with that one is 4 primary sales, 173 acres of partial cut harvest, and 226 acres of modified clear cut harvest. Those sales right there total up to 6.5 million board feet. 2 of them are post-fire burned timber or fern forest that we were doing a timber harvest on. So those would be the Elkfoot timber sale and West 7 Mile. 2 of those primaries are outside the fire perimeter. That's a Good Aim Thin and Silver Dollar. Good Aim Thin is a first entry commercial thin, while Silver Dollar is a regeneration harvest. We do have one alternate plan that's outside the fire perimeter. It's Last West. It's 67 acres of modified clear cut with about 3.8 million feet associated with that one sale. So at this time in our phase 1 of 22 annual operations planning, we finished our public comment period, received 3 written comments, and an email directly to the district from ODF&W and in support of the first phase of the plan, and trying to set up some field tours with them, and be in good coordination with that other agency. And we've received a wide range of comments with those 3 written ones. Several commenters expressed a desire to see more post-fire harvesting take place. There was also some concerns about the amount of timber actually available to be cut and sold was less than what was advertised in FY21. There was concerns about utilizing strategies in a draft habitat conservation plan while preparing this annual operations plan. There was also some comments from multiple stakeholders regarding green trees, just amounts, arrangements, and things like that. So a wide range, and right now the next steps, what we're working through is considering all those comments, making adjustments as needed, and providing some responses, trying to get those out this week, and working on approval of phase 1 of the AOP in the following weeks. And just before I pause for questions here and turn it over to Austin, just to, the next step after phase 1 would be phase 2, which is this Fern Ridge project that we're going to present to you. And it is 14 acres of modified clear cut and a roadside hazard partial cut unit in the sale that it totals 1.5 million feet. So with phase 1, phase 2 together would be 8 million feet total, which is that low end of our implementation plan volume range. Also, just to kind of summarize all that up is, just kind of starting at the top, a summary of acres. So we manage on the district 47,465 acres across Lynn, Marion, and Clackamas County. Within the fire perimeter was about just under or just over half, 24,352 acres, and 16,600 of that roughly was in low, moderate, and high severity. Really actually had kind of gave us a second look. We needed to do some type of restoration there. The post-fire harvest areas for FY21 and 22 comprise of about 2,400 acres. As I said before, the aerial seeded areas was right over 4,300 acres. And I guess I'll back up one step there on that post-fire harvest area. Those acres are just the in-unit harvesting. So that asterisk to the side there, just keying in that it does not include the roadside hazard mitigation areas, the miles of road that we're treating on both sides, depending on the condition of the trees. Those are partial cut areas. And so, out of these total acres, kind of working our way down, what we have planted in 2021 and what we're planning to plant this winter is about, really it's about 3,800 acres total for those two, but that second asterisk just is not double accounting acres because some of those planted acres this year will be those FY21 timber sales that are already finished. And so that leaves us with this kind of quote unquote unmanaged area of about 7,000 acres. And I just wanted to kind of key you all in on what that 7,000 acres is comprised of. And really about 2,300 of it is really low severity fire, maybe received some sort of shrub understory burn through, but the stand itself was intact. And a lot of those other, the other acres trying to comprise of that 7,000 is draft habitat conservation areas. Our terrestrial anchor site up by Rhodey Lake, the High Lakes area, is about 1,400 acres. There's northern spotted owl provincial circles, the 1.2 mile radius circles, desired future condition complex acres, and also pre-fire condition complex acres. And then all these numbers you're looking at on this slide are gross acres. So taking the road right-of-ways out, taking the riparian conservation area stream buffers out, power line right-of-ways, and also within those acres is things that we're looking at planting in FY23 and FY24, just haven't really finalized exactly those units yet. And so that's what that 7,000 acres in. We felt like we've put a pretty big hit on the landscape, excuse me, but yeah, it's a lot of work has been done, and I think the next slide here, I'll pause for questions on anything accomplished in 2021.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. I see. Thanks for raising your hand. Ken, do you have a question?
Wow, I never got to thank you for raising my hand. Usually I get a tomato thrown at me. I'm not sure exactly how to ask this, Kyle, but in a nutshell, I'm wondering about the income from the sales that, the additional income that you guys have had from sales that was unexpected. But more importantly, can you give us a real quick rundown on what the funding mechanism is for the restoration work? And I'm thinking specifically in terms of, soil stabilization, the reforestation, you're doing that kind of stuff. Where do those funds come from? And do we have any assurance that those funds will last through, say, let's use the silviculture forestry word, the stand establishment kind of phase, the 10 to 15-year-old bracket? So does that make sense for a question?
Yeah, it makes sense to me, and appreciate the question, Ken. It would, to me, be any normal funding that we would do on any other annual operations plan. The revenue coming in would be the same county split, and the cost going out would come directly from our forest development fund. We are exploring a lot of different grants to help with restoration, and some of our coordinators and our cooperators and partners are helping us out hugely with that, getting reforestation grants and research grants to help with monitoring. And yeah, it's the same as any other year with the additional help that we are getting, and pass it on to maybe Ron or Don or Liz if they wanted anything to add on that.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. I would like to turn it over to Robbie real quickly just to touch on one very unique and large grant that we've recently received. So Robbie, I'll turn that over to you if you're.
Sure. Thanks, Ron. Again, Robbie with Dave. I'm the assistant for Northwest Oregon area. So right after the fires happened, American Forest, which is the largest nonprofit in America for kind of the forest conservation community, reached out to us. And we've been working with them for the last year, and we're getting ready to sign an MOU and do a press release. And they're going to donate $1 million to ODF, and that's going to cover about 2 million seedlings to be planted on North Cascade. And so that'll be coming out soon. And then, so that $1 million will then help us do restoration work in Santiam, as well as, you know, across state forests with that money by kind of offsetting the seedling costs to reforest in the Santiam. So that's a huge grant from American Forest, and we're super thankful for them to work with us.
And just to close that off, Ken, I would characterize it as I don't foresee any funding obstacles. Obviously, we've got a lot of work to do over time, but you know, as far as getting the stands reestablished and reforested with our current forest development fund balance, which has, you know, been helped out by some of the additional short-term revenues from the post-fire harvests, as well as a variety of positive economic factors over the last several years, and the large grant from American Forest, the future looks real good in the, you know, next 3 to 5 years, certainly, to press on with the work we need to do.
Thank you all.
And can I add? I mean, that's an important point for folks to remember, is that the FDF, the Forest Development Fund, is, you know, it buffers these kind of cycles. So, you know, the expenses are not constrained to the fiscal year where they come in. And so there'll be recreation expenses that are longer term. There are going to be some unique management. I think there are going to be some unique management expenses in those aerial seeded areas that'll be part of a kind of a longer term experiment. And that FDF, that rainy day fund or operating reserve, I mean, there are a lot of ways to think about it. It's something we should all be familiar with, and just help the public understand how that makes a business possible to run in these scenarios. So correct me if I'm wrong, anybody with the staff, or if I've mischaracterized some of that.
I think that's fair, Barrett.
Terrific. Kyle, did you want to take off from there?
Susan's got her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Oh, there we go.
I just want to say it was a great presentation. You gave us a lot of information I wasn't expecting. So you did a great job. And I just want to say this again. I am so impressed with how much work that you were able to get done post-fire. That's a lot of work, and you should all be commended for that. That takes a lot of people, and you did it very quickly, and I'm just really impressed. Coming from the Forest Service, you're very quick. So I want to let you know how much I appreciate that.
Thank you. It means a lot.
This is Liz. It really does mean a lot, and we'll work to pass that on, because there was a lot of personal sacrifice. People coming from our field offices from all over the state. So driving great distances from their homes to go work on the forest on the Santiam, because there was such a need for additional staff out there. And then all of those folks working as a team to get the work done. It was really phenomenal, and it certainly impressed me too, Susan. So thanks for recognizing that.
Terrific. I don't see any hands this time. Kyle, yeah, take it away.
Okay, and I guess I'll pass it to Austin to kind of go over that phase 2 Fern Ridge project.
Thanks, Kyle, and hello again, everyone. My name is Austin Dixon. I'm the planning coordinator for the North Cascade District. And I will start by giving a general spatial overview of the Fern Ridge project area and the resource considerations, and then talk about the forest management component of the project before passing it off to the individual specialists to talk more in detail about their aspects of the project. The Fern Ridge project will be the second phase of the North Cascade FY22 annual operating plan. The project is in an area of the Santiam State Forest that burned at a moderate to high severity during the Beachy Creek fire. The area has many resource considerations that we tried to balance while developing a plan for this area in a mindset of achieving the greatest permanent value. So now let's get to know the area and those resource considerations to give everyone a full context of the plan. To start and get our bearings, the area is near Shellberg Falls, which is a well-visited recreation site. This map has the post-fire imagery set as a background. Oh, could we back up one or two? Perfect, thanks. This map has the post-fire imagery set as the background, which speaks volumes by itself about the extent of the fire severity. And I wanted to apologize, the property lines are not showing up very well with the post-fire imagery there, but yeah, Colleen is showing with her mouse, tracing the property lines just to get a better sense of where the ODF managed lands are there. So now we can move forward, sorry. So here we are, we're zoomed out and we can see that the project area is completely within the burn perimeter of the 2020 Beachy Creek fire, shown by that pink polygon on the map. We'll zoom back in, that little icon kind of showing Shellberg Falls again, so we have our bearings. And what you're seeing now is an overlay of the burn severity on ODF managed lands. You can see that the Fern Ridge project is concentrated in areas that burn at a moderate to high severity, as indicated by the medium brown and dark brown colors on the map. In addition to the Shellberg Falls itself, there are multiple other components to the recreation infrastructure in the area. Here you'll see the trail network that is shown by the yellow dashed line. And ODF also has built recreation infrastructure in the area, including a picnic shelter, restrooms, and campsites, and also kiosks and parking. Moving on to the other resource considerations, the entire project area has a desired future condition of layered, indicated here by the green diagonal lines. And just to reiterate, this is the desired future condition. All of this area had a variety of pre-fire conditions, what you may know as current condition. There was a variety of those, but the entire area was a desired future condition of layered. Additionally, the Fern Ridge project is entirely within a draft habitat conservation area as defined by the draft habitat conservation plan. And then, as you can see here, the blue lines are all the streams in the area. Sarah will tell you more about the riparian and aquatic portion of the plan later in the presentation, but this map will give you some context to where those riparian areas are located. And one last resource consideration to be aware of, there are remnants of a historic logging camp in the area that are considered historic resources. Those aren't shown on the map, but it's just important to be aware of those as well. So moving on to the forest management component. The forest management component of the Fern Ridge project will include harvesting and planting. This plan is not yet finalized, but we are currently considering 4 units as part of the plan. This is a plan that has gone through several iterations of thoughtful review by all of the specialists involved in the project. And we've put a lot of effort in developing this version that we think carefully balances the components of greatest permanent value in an area with so many considerations. So unit 1, that purple color, is a 14-acre modified clear cut. This unit is in a portion of that high severity burn we looked at earlier. The modified clear cut would be outside the view shed of Shellberg Falls, but positioned along the trail system, which will give us future opportunity for education and interpretation to compare the different forest management strategies we plan to implement. Unit 2 is a safety-focused hazard mitigation partial cut to open the road system to recreation users and contractors. Trees within the hazard mitigation area will be looked at individually to assess hazard potential before being cut. It won't be a wholesale removal of trees within the hazard mitigation area. And Kyle had that slide earlier to kind of frame in your mind what that might look like. The green trees and the stable trees will remain. Unit 3 is a 18-acre underplanting area. So in the underplanting area, no harvest will be conducted, but we will underplant throughout the unit. We're considering this treatment here because very little natural regeneration was seen there during the post-fire field visits. And then Unit 4 is a 13-acre no management area. We're considering no management here because compared to Units 1 and Unit 3, there are more standing green trees that survived the fire and much more natural regeneration already seen in the field. Also, Unit 4 had similar pre-fire stand characteristics to Unit 1 and Unit 3, which will be valuable for future comparisons of results from our monitoring program. I'll now pass it off to John to give you some more additional details on the reforestation plan for Fern Ridge.
Say, John, if I can interject, sorry to interrupt the flow, but I'm aware that Commissioner Magruder is going to have to leave here in just a few minutes. Margaret, if all that's come your way so far in the meeting, if it's spurred any comments you'd like to make or questions, I just want to make sure you have a chance before you have to run.
Thank you, Chairman Brown. I think I need a little education. The comments about the green trees and stable trees, I can understand green trees. Can you tell me what you consider stable trees?
I can take that one. So with all the FY21 roadside hazard mitigation and with this project, we have a criteria that we put in our timber sale contracts that say really what constitutes a hazard tree is anything that can threaten life, infrastructure, or property. And so what we're looking for is anything leaning more than 15 degrees towards the roadway, anything that's burnt out into the bowl, we call it cat face, more than 50%, like really has structural deficiency right there, or anything 50% root compromise that we can see, 50% or more, or any combination of those with pre-fire defects such as rot or any kind of thing we could see there that would cause it to buckle or break off more frequently than a non-defected tree. So really takes a keen eye when we're doing our contract admin with this roadside hazard work, but especially in this area when we're wanting to get every decision right, it's just going to have to be looked at very carefully.
Thank you, Kyle. And I know that there was a lot of controversy over hazard trees during this time. So the trees that are left wouldn't be trees that are going to die and cause issues with insects or anything?
So the ones that are left, you're right. There is a decent chance of them to, have further die off in the future, and we'll take our best crack at it right now during this project, then keep looking at it over time. And if we again see, okay, now more maybe dying off, we would kind of look at them as we go into the future and just keep it a safe working environment.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you, Chairman, for allowing me to ask some questions before I leave. Thank you. And will these slides be available for us so that I can look at them later too?
Yeah, certainly. We can get you that, Commissioner Gruder.
Great. Thank you so much.
And let me just quickly interject, since I don't know that we're going to get to the SFAC involvement portion. We will be, this isn't your only chance to weigh in on what you're seeing today. So watch your email for a survey that's going to kind of ask you some questions about the project in the context of greatest permanent value rule.
Great. Thanks, everybody. So who had I rudely interrupted there? We'll hand the ball back.
Hi, my name is John Walter. I'm covering the Young Stand Management for North Cascade. So as Austin said earlier, we're doing 3 different prescriptions management areas. One area is going to be natural seed in. So the picture on the left here is a little natural seedling that got started after the fire. Next area is underplanting existing dead trees. This middle picture is, there's a little green tree right where it's circled there. That was from a planting unit that I did this past winter on the Santiam. And then the third is initial planting after we do the overstory removal, which is a picture on the right, kind of the practice that has happened more often so far. So with that short little rundown, I'll turn it over to Jamal for cover recreation.
All right. Again, Jamal Rib, Recreation Planning Coordinator. In addition to the Shelburne Falls, which is the highlight here, the draw to the area, I do want to kind of let you know, that give you the background that this area also supports another 1.5 miles of hiking trails, about 4.5 miles of mountain bike trails, and another 3.5 miles of hiking, mountain biking, equestrian trail, multi-use trail. And also, we have a valued connection to the Silver Falls Recreation or State Park. For recreation, to summarize our restoration recovery goals, one is to repair damaged infrastructure impacted by wildfire. And through this, we'll be evaluating where we can reduce infrastructure need by either a reroute or using natural materials to reduce future maintenance needs. An example of that would be like replacing a staircase with a reroute and so forth, or using rock instead of wood, just gain us that kind of durability. Another thing would be upgrading opportunities to allow the public to safely experience wildfire impacted environment and support education and interpretation goals associated with the wildfire restoration and forest management. Example of this would be creation of an interpretation loop open to ADA families, school groups and so forth. Just kind of quickly run down with work that's been happening out there. We've had AIC adult and custody crews out there removing damaged infrastructure and repairing trail tread, as well as volunteers out there helping us with maintenance and trail repairs. For the Fern Ridge project, we hope to address, we will address the hazard trees along our access roads, parking areas, day-use picnic areas, and around existing infrastructure, our picnic shelter, our restroom. And in the short term, post-forest operations, of course, we'll be opening, we hope to open for day use only. The area at one time offered camping opportunities. We will look to the future to reintroduce these overnight opportunities, but in the short term, it'll only be open to day use. And with that, that's a quick summary of what we've got on the recreation side. I also invite you guys to, if you have any questions, reach out to us and we can go through the details. With that, I can pass it over to Sarah Beardall, our riparians and aquatic specialist.
I have a question. My hand is raised. Could I interrupt?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you kindly. One of the things that I deal with as a county commissioner is a wide diversity of opinion among my constituents. Some people make their living in the forest products industry, so they understand silviculture and all of that. Some people think every forest land is a parkland. Anybody who cuts trees is evil. And what I'm looking to do is to inform, to balance and harmonize those points of view. So the fact that you can use burned areas as an educational opportunity seems to me to be useful all over the state, particularly with the metropolitan media. Jason, what do you think? Well, the idea that anybody who cuts a tree is evil, really, it's almost like a religious point of view in some places in my district. People think clear cuts are ugly. The whole notion of educating people about how forestry works. I mean, if people could just listen to Ty and Dan, they'd be all fine, but you know, they sometimes have a problem hearing. So visuals like this, if you could help us share this information visually all around, I think it might help with managing perceptions and educating people to really broaden their point of view. Asking for help. Thanks.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Denise Berkshire with Education Interpretation is going to highlight a little bit more of our goals here. And that's our intent, really. I mean, we do want to highlight, you know, not only the wildfire restoration, and people will experience what it's like to be in that impacted environment, but also, you know, our forest management, our prescriptions, you know, and we provide some background on reasoning, and we'll be able to evaluate over time. And year after year, you know, we'll have those opportunities for people to go and, you know, evaluate our school groups, you know, really pass that on. She'll elaborate a little bit more on that. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm going to dive in here. Again, I'm Sarah Deardahl, the Aquatic and Riparian Specialist for the division. And I'm going to highlight a little bit about how we're addressing aquatics and riparian areas within the Fern Ridge sale. You know, immediately post-fire, a lot of folks, rightly so, are concerned about water quality. And so I'm just going to highlight, you know, how we've addressed this through our planning efforts. You know, in particular for the Fern Ridge sale. So really shortly after the fires, the division adopted a policy implementing larger riparian buffers to protect water quality and habitat within the Santiam State Forest with respect to any of the harvest sales. You know, an example of that is 120-foot horizontal buffer distances on fish streams. Those buffer distances are also included on medium and large non-fish streams. So larger overall buffers adjacent to harvest units where there are streams. And then no salvage or harvest within the riparian areas, meaning that even when stands adjacent to riparian areas burned, those trees are going to remain. And that's because, excuse me, those trees still provide, or still will have the ability to provide, the complex structure within those RMAs, and also that future large wood recruitment that's so important for that aquatic habitat and function. And so those trees will remain even when burned, when you know, looking at riparian areas. Thirdly is the danger tree removal, which you've heard a lot about already this morning. And the prescription for danger tree removal when within an RMA is a fallen leaf strategy, meaning that those trees are not going to be extracted. So, you know, there's a danger tree, an example, there's a danger tree within the RMA. That tree will be fallen and left either just within the buffer itself to provide habitat for things like amphibians, or where feasible, actually felled directly into the stream channel. And again, that provides that instant aquatic habitat benefit. So those are some of the protections that we're implementing within this, this project. We're also doing rigorous monitoring as part of this to make sure that we are meeting those riparian buffer goals and water quality standards. So we've already begun riparian vegetation monitoring. The photos on the left of this slide depict some of those early monitoring plots. The top photo is a hemispherical photo, which shows riparian canopy cover. This is a control plot in a non-stand replacing section of the Fern Ridge area. And then the bottom photo depicts natural regeneration observed in one of the monitoring plots. And again, there's a diversity of vegetation recovery that we're seeing on the landscape. We really want to watch that and monitor that and document it over time. And so we can incorporate that with our management strategies. Next year, we're going to add water quality and quantity monitoring as well as soil monitoring. And this is in partnership with OSU. They've just been awarded a $750,000 grant, research grant, which will cover 4 years of this additional monitoring. So that's really an exciting partnership that we're being able to utilize and leverage to satisfy some of our internal monitoring questions. Lastly, I want to point out the planned restoration actions within this particular sale. And that includes some active riparian planting along Shelburne Creek. So we'll be implementing that strategy and monitoring that over time. And then we're also looking at decommissioning a culvert on a legacy road that we identified that's no longer needed for access. It will open up aquatic access for passage through Shelburne Creek. So that was just an easy win that we could identify with doing some management actions within this sale. And lastly, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the ongoing partner coordination in the canyon, specifically around aquatics, and that's the ODFW fish biologist consultation and coordination, cross-boundary coordination with the Forest Service. I mentioned the OSU research partnership. And then the North Santiam Watershed Council is coordinating the partners of the North Santiam. That's another entity that's really working to partner across jurisdictions across the canyon to identify the highest restoration need, leverage additional capacity and funding. They've got a current congressional request out right now that we're waiting patiently to hear back on. And numerous others that are just really working to try to monitor the recovery and fill information gaps for all of the land managers in the canyon. So with that, I will pause and hand it off to our wildlife biologist, Dax.
Thank you, Sarah. Again, my name is Dax Strub. I'm one of 7 wildlife biologists on staff in the State Forest Division, and I was going to go over the wildlife section. Other projects within HCA's Desired Feature Condition Complex and terrestrial anchor sites could look very similar to this Shelburne tract, minus the moderate and heavy burn severity. So some examples of that would be varying stand densities and patch cuts. So the 14-acre modified clear cut, it's a larger patch cut surrounded by different densities of within stands. Underplanting could also occur in future projects, and then the larger than FPA or forest management plan required snag and downwood component. So for this particular project, some of the habitat contributions would be the snag and downwood retention. Also in the prescription in the modified clear cut, there is going to be 0 green tree removal. And by green, that'll be later defined somewhere between probably 5 and 15% crown to tree or crown to height ratio that we would put in our contracts, and then also admin. And then there will be vertical and horizontal stand diversity. And what I mean by that will be there will be layering within a stand, and there will also be different stand densities and distribution across the block. And then also there will be a large or a 14-acre component of early sterile habitat. With that, I'm going to pass it off to Tyson to discuss monitoring.
Hi all. Again, I'm the adaptive management specialist. And so I'd like to talk about the terrestrial monitoring. Sarah already talked about the riparian monitoring that is ongoing. So in this management area, I think it's a neat opportunity to compare how the forests are going to develop over time after these 3 different treatments. And so we plan to establish permanent plots and go there before and after at multiple time increments to measure some of these habitat and revegetation components that Dax was talking about. So with snags and down wood, we have a lot of new snags now, and it's going to be important to see how long those last. You know, we don't have a lot of information on how burned snags will last through time and provide for wildlife, so we need to know that. We're interested in the seedling growth and whether the underplanting is a good strategy going forward. And then we're also interested in the live tree mortality and the vertical and horizontal diversity that Dax was talking about and how that develops over time with these 3 treatments. And we'll be tracking invasive species and understory plants as well. Some of the considerations for this monitoring, we're looking at monitoring across the whole Santiam State Forest, not just at Shellberg. So a lot of that is detailed in the restoration plan that Ramona Arechiga is developing. And we'll also be comparing the Shellberg and in the Fern Ridge unit to other stands that have different treatments across the state forest. So we'll not just be looking at these 3 units, but lots of different units. And I think one of the interesting things, you know, within these units, there are different live trees available as seed sources. And, you know, we didn't put out our management units randomly. It'll be interesting to see how the distance from live trees, changes what we see in these permanent plots as far as the vegetation development. So I'm excited to see how these forests change through time. And next, Denise is going to be talking about education and interpretation.
Hello all, again, I'm Denise Berkshire, the Interpretation and Education Coordinator for the agency. And to date, current efforts in interpretation and education have been focused on creating a documentation package of the Santiam State Forest, including the Fern Ridge project area before, during, and after the Labor Day fires to capture key components of the story. There's a real rare opportunity to capture real-time events here and resources as the story unfolds. And so we've been proactively collecting fire impact and restoration documentation that will allow for future interpretive opportunities and monitoring forest change over time. Some examples of items included in the package are capturing visual representation of the forest. So photographs, video, aerial footage, and we have erected some picture posts as seen in this photo on the slide that have been placed at designated locations throughout the Santiam State Forest, with 2 at the Fern Ridge area. And this one in the photo here is actually looking at Shellberg Falls. If you look closely, there's some low water flow. And currently staff and eventually the community will be able to contribute their images to a database to document change over time. We're also documenting operational procedures, including post-fire assessment, the archaeology report for the historic camp that was mentioned, and complex forest planning efforts. So all of the work that you've heard in this project, including future operations on the landscape. And then also we're detailing future potential interpretation and education opportunities along with suggestions and ideas. It was a natural go-to to compare the Labor Day fires to the Tillamook burn because that was a historic east wind event. So we've been cataloging comparisons and things that contrast to the Tillamook burn. And we also have a really unique opportunity here at the Fern Ridge site because there's connectivity, which can allow for innovative interpretive technology outside of traditional interpretive signage. So for example, visitors could use their cell phones for a self-guided experience. And we'd still be able to more easily update information on the changing landscape rather than having to replace an interpretive sign, because things will be changing over time with the replanting efforts and all of the components of this project area. So looking ahead, we're looking at taking that documentation package and rolling it up into an interpretive master plan to support the forest management plan efforts. And in addition, as many of you may know, we're also in the process of developing a recreation, interpretation, and education strategic plan. So all of those planning efforts will identify the future vision for interpretation and education, while providing a needs assessment to implement these opportunities. And this is in addition to beyond the work that's currently happening in the Tillamook State Forest at the Tillamook Forest Center, where we educate the public on state forest management and how forests touch our lives every day, from the products we use to the water we drink to the recreation that we enjoy. And it looks like we have a question.
Well, it's actually a comment and an invitation. Commissioner Magruder is co-chair of the AOC Natural Resources Subcommittee. I bet I can speak for her when she says, when she would say, if she were here, this would be a good presentation to bring to that subcommittee, that policy subcommittee at the Association of Oregon Counties, so that other county commissioners have a chance to see it as well. I want to get you as much dispersion of this good information as possible to elected policymakers that can make a positive difference for you.
Thank you.
Sure, and I'll take a moment here, just because of our compressed time frame and the difficulty. As valuable as all of these comments have been, we should probably restrict our kind of clarifying questions to committee members if we can, just as a matter of practice. So thanks, everybody.
So with that, I will now pass the baton to Jason in Public Affairs.
Thanks, Denise. So I'm Jason. I work in ODF Public Affairs. I'm going to share a few key takeaways with you, as well as our plans to engage you as our advisory committee, as well as public engagement. So how this area was handled required some thoughtful consideration of the social, economic, and environmental values that state forests by law must provide to Oregonians. Specific to this site, this included restoring safe public access and ensuring the scenic experience, restoring trails and recreation infrastructure, monitoring a variety of post-fire landscape treatments has been detailed for you, harvesting about 1.5 million board feet of timber, which will help finance recovery efforts and provide revenue to our county partners, identifying interpretation and education opportunities, habitat contributions, such as leaving green trees, snags, and retaining down wood, aquatic habitat protections and water quality protections, and focused public engagement process for an area that's popular with recreation users and highly visible. And on the next slide, I'll tell you a little more about the engagement. So be watching for an email to the SFAC later this week with a feedback survey asking questions based on what you've heard today, how best the agency can meet social, environmental, and economic goals specific to the Schellberg area. And of course, we're eager to hear your initial thoughts today as well. So watch your email for that. And at your October 29th meeting, we'll report out on the feedback we received from you and any changes made as a result. Just like today, there'll be an opportunity for public comment at that meeting. The project will then move into a 14-day public comment period in November, which will be another opportunity for the public to kind of learn more and weigh in. And that concludes my portion of the presentation. And this is a great time for questions and feedback. I also want to put, and I'm going to be putting in the chat, a link to some photos from not just Schellberg Falls, but all of our recreation sites shortly after, it's about a month to 6 weeks after the fire. You know, and I think it's indicative of the changing landscape that things have already changed since then, but this will give you a good grounding for what our staff literally walked into when looking how to tackle the challenges after the Labor Day fires.
Great. Thanks, Jason. So, now we'd really like to engage in this, dialogue with you on making sure if there's any clarifying questions about what was presented to you, about what the intention is for the project, and, just sharing thoughts from your own, user groups or representation that you have on the committee, and sharing with us thoughts of potential controversy. Based on our previous experience, like I mentioned in my introduction, when we roll this out for public comment, since there was already a lot of interest and controversy in just any type of post-fire harvesting when it's associated with Shelburne Falls, we're trying to do the best job we can up front of really being clear about what it is we are intending to do and the outcomes we're expecting to get from our management project, to control our own narrative based on the facts of what we are intending to do versus perceptions of what folks might be concerned about or fear in general from just perceptions of other post-fire harvesting they may have, particularly around the Shelburne Falls area. So I'm going to pause there and really just open up the floor. Barrett, I don't know if you have anything to say.
I noticed Susan's had her hand up. Go right ahead.
Thanks. I was really impressed with the presentation. You always give us so much information, and that's wonderful. I really appreciate the education part. Just like what the commissioner said, I think that telling the story is one of the most important things we can do. If people could just understand the reasoning and why things are done, I think we'd be a lot better off. And I also think it would cut down on the controversy if we could do that. I really like the monitoring plan. I like the fact that you're leaving a unit that you can use to compare to that area and other areas. I think that's a wonderful idea. And I think that also will help people see what's going on. And the fact that you are involving the public as soon as you can. I think that people have a lot going on, and the more time you can give them to comment, the better off you're going to be. But I think your plan looks really solid to me right now, and I really appreciate everybody's input. It's been really good.
Can I just add to that? I think it's important to not don't describe these education and interpretation opportunities as only a way of describing what you're doing, or only a way as of kind of defending or using misunderstanding around what you're doing as a department. But think of these as this is a deliverable education asset for the entire state, in their entire lives and other natural resource areas. This is part of greatest permanent value, part of a deliverable, a service you're providing to the people. This isn't just a defensive move by the Department of Forestry around these kind of operations.
Yeah, this is Liz. Barrett, if I could quickly, sorry, I should have used the raised hand feature. I'm terrible that way, but I'll get better. I think that I just want to say that's exactly right. And when the team started looking at this, really saw this as a demonstration of greatest permanent value. So to your words, not defensive, but really an opportunity to educate. And exactly right, the education interpretation program that Laura and Denise run is a deliverable of greatest permanent value. It's one of the pieces, one of the benefits actually listed in GPV.
Great, Ron. What do you have next teed up? Or just I know you're.
Ken's got his hand up.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Ken. Sorry there.
Thanks. I think this question goes to Denise and obviously to Laura too. The plans that you're talking about developing and have currently in process, if you will, are those plans open to public comment also? And those things that we could during that development engage in, at least read and kind of see where you guys are headed. This stuff is really very interesting to me, being a a former forestry service planner type person. Lots and lots of interpretation, some tremendously good work you guys have done through the Tillamook Forest Center. And I'm really encouraged to see some of that same thinking spread further for opportunities here. So I'll be quiet after that.
Hey Ken, Laura here. Thanks for the question. I think how I'm going to answer that is yes, at some point we will be seeking broader input. And I just want to kind of reframe things in the sense of we're very early on in the recreation, education, interpretation, strategic planning. The interpretive master plan is a subset of that, and it really is also necessary for us to look deeper into the master interpretive and education master plan, which really links to our forest management plan that we're still in the process of developing. So long-winded way of saying we are early in the planning process. The intention, yes, is there in terms of shopping this out, if you will, for public input. Right now, we've just identified our goals for our recreation, education, and interpretive strategic planning, and how we are working with kind of, I guess, with stakeholder groups at this point is having informal conversations, and certainly I can contact you offline just in terms of the overall goals that we've identified to just get a basic feel of, is this, these are goals that we've identified internally. What are your thoughts on this? Rather than opening that up for a big public input process, because we're still so early on and we haven't even devised any kind of work plans around that. That's what we're going about right now in terms of just getting some general feedback from a select group of, exterior audience stakeholders to get a sense of, are we going on the right track, right? I think the other thing, in general, I think we all on this call recognize the importance of our I&E elements. And part of our recreation, education, and interpretation strategic planning is really identifying how are we going to be able to implement that on the ground. It's one thing to recognize the importance of it, and then it's really how do we strategize and actually make sure that we can implement that. So I would like to just say we're very early in our planning process. There's layers of planning that are occurring here. We are actually kind of a subset and providing information for the larger forest management plan that accompanies the habitat conservation plan. So very long-winded way of saying yes. We will be seeking input. And again, I'd be happy to contact you offline and just wrap you into that conversation right now in terms of getting feedback on the identified goals.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll take you up on that. We'll talk.
Terrific.
Can I, clarifying, is there anything you can say about the granularity with which you'll be including activities in an AOP, Laura, that would provide a public comment, for example, a day use area being reconstructed or an opening for camping? Are there things that you're in this sphere that'll be in an AOP that would also provide public comment opportunity?
I'm actually going to turn that one over to Jamal. I mean, the intent is there, yes. In terms of what we have capacity to actualize, again, is a slightly different story. So, Jamal, I don't want to put you on the spot. I'm wondering if you have anything additional to say about that.
Well, everything will still pass through the AOP process. And through that, we will, we do have that open public comment period. So, I mean, in regards to, like you brought up some examples, the development or the redevelopment of the Shelburne Falls recreation area, we would push that forward, and you would see plans in the AOP, our intentions there, and we would welcome comments in that regard. And the same thing goes with the camping opportunity.
Great.
It's just, really we're early in that. We've quickly put out some some language in our AOPs, 21, 22, and they'll be more definitive moving forward, 23, 24, and so forth.
Okay, great. Leslie, I'm not sure, it's a little tough for you to shoehorn your thoughts in here over the phone. Is there anything you'd like to add?
My only question was, so you talked a lot about the streams. Are the deer and elk coming back and other animals, or it's too early to tell?
I'll take that. So ODFW is going to continue to do their ungulate surveys, so their deer and elk surveys. I'm not sure if they specifically do them on Shellberg. One of the days that we were out there, at this point it's probably a quarter of the people on the screen now. We're out there together, and there was a barred owl in the stand. We saw another day, we saw some frogs that were on our species concern list. So they are coming back. You go, and I don't know at what rates, because I'm not sure if ODFW did the deer and elk surveys on this track beforehand.
Oh, I didn't mean it as in a survey. I just meant as an observation. If you just have seen them returning to the forest.
I'll give that to Kyle and maybe some more of the district staff. I haven't seen enough elk or deer on the district to know if there's a difference between pre and post fire. I know some of our protected wildlife surveys are not coming back favorable for their population. And I can go into greater detail if you're curious about that.
Yeah, I'll just add on to that too, just kind of reports, observations that I've heard from foresters out different parts of the Santiam State Forest. They are seeing deer and elk tracks pretty heavily. Like had one report back from Santiam Horse Camp area the other day saying it looked like a lot of elk had been traveling through the area, and there is a local herd that moves west to east along that south block of our Santiam State Forest there south of Mill City and Gates. A couple weeks to a month after the fires happened, when we started going out for initial assessment, we were seeing elk and deer running around. So I'd say yeah, they're still out there. They're coming back.
Yeah, I can echo that with my observations as out in the field as well. One thing to note though is our private landowners surrounding the Shellberg area are going pretty heavy right now. There's a lot of operational activity on private land, and that will influence, the patterns, game patterns. But I have been seeing some new tracks and sign down in the Shellberg area.
Thank you.
Well, great. I think what occurs to me is this question about why SFAC, at this time, why are we, what can we offer and why are we engaged here? In a regular committee meeting, we'd have definitely more participation, which would be helpful. This is understandable in this case, but there's a lot of attention on these operations, and the more kind of conversational input, the better here. Vron, I don't know if you want to take a second to kind of articulate some of the things you've been hearing or points of controversy. I mean, not to validate any over others, but
sure. One thing I'd like to just make a little clearer is our intention, for engagement. So I think, Jason kind of went over it at a higher level, and Susan, I heard what you'd said about allowing as much time as possible for public comment. So I want to call that out to hear what you all think. Our intention was to, roll this out to you today, just to introduce it so you had an opportunity to understand it, then give you some time to reflect on what you'd heard here today and think about it. And then, over the next couple of weeks, provide you an opportunity to give us any, feedback you had. So wasn't expecting everything, to put you on the spot today to give us any thoughts or feedback that you have, but to give you a few weeks to do that, knowing we're kind of catching you cold on this, and appreciate your participation in this special meeting. Then we were going to take that input to inform how we would make our, what we call the public comment draft of our pre-operations report for the forest project. That would occur if you had until the end of September. Then we would be working on that in early October, get it to a place where we felt that is the project we want to roll out for further public engagement. And then we would have a public meeting, information meeting was our intention, really at this point, just one public information meeting once we had input from you, and then share again a similar high level presentation just to really get this information out there to interested publics. It would be noticed as a public information meeting. It would be done via Zoom, obviously, because of the COVID considerations, etc. And we would walk through in advance of putting it out for public comment for awareness and trying to bring clarity to our actual intentions and goals for the work, what we're planning there, so that when it does go out as a public comment opportunity and it's associated with Shelburne Falls, people are not taken back, or it gets completely propagandized by potentially someone as ODF clear cuts Shelburne Falls, right, as the tagline, because we're not doing that, and we want to be able to, as best as we can, front load our messaging on that story. But we were also, because of the timing in which we are and needing to move this forward because of the burnt forest condition deterioration in our fiscal timeline that we're under for this year, we do need to continue to move that forward. So our typical public comment period, under normal circumstances, we allow 45 days because it's all districts, it's many operations on each district. And we did allow that for all the other districts this year under our normal process. And then for the Santiam State Forest, North Cascade districts, which came out later, we did condense that down to 30 days because it was just one district that was out at a time and a much smaller subset of operations. For this being a singular forest project, we were thinking that 2 weeks would be adequate if we had done engagement with you as a committee, incorporated what feedback we got from you, held a public information meeting prior to the public comment very beginning to get clarity around what we're doing. Jason intends to do a little media outreach as we get much closer to that public comment period. And then others are doing outreach with key stakeholder leaders, county partners, etc. Liz is playing a key role in that with some outreach to some industry representatives, conservation representatives, that type of thing. So that's our general approach there, Susan. So when it comes to a 15-day or 14-day public comment period, what's your gut level response to that?
Well, I think it's, like I said, I think it's real difficult for people to respond. There's just lots of stuff going on, and the more time you can give people, the better. And if you're under a timeline, that's the way it is. I'm just so used to having really long periods of time to prepare for the response. So I'm just not sure how long is the right length, but you're getting it out there and you're doing it as quickly as you can. One thing I want to stress is I think it's really important for people to understand this also is a huge safety issue. If people want to get back into the forest or get back to these areas, the only way it's going to happen is to do it safely. And safety has to do with removing hazard trees. And I think if people want to camp, you're going to open up for day use, but to really open up the forest, especially in a burned area, safety is a huge thing that you have to address first to even let people up there. So I think that needs to be a really big part of your education and to the public, because the last thing you want is somebody to get hurt, because you're going to hear even more about it. Seems like you hear more about the bad stuff than you hear about the good stuff. And removing these trees and getting the forest back into a productive place that people want to be in this park-like area that people think that that's what the forest is. You got to address that safety issue. So I think that's another big point that you need to emphasize.
Thank you for that, Susan. So in addition to making sure that our public engagement strategy and intentions are clear, really would just like watch outs for us, or things that you think about that we should be expecting, like, messaging the public safety consideration and why it's, needed to be mitigated to get people back out there to where they want to go, but other things that you can think of from any of you all. And Mike, welcome any thoughts you've got if we're missing something too related to tribal engagement or other considerations you might have from your perspective, Mike.
Yep. Go ahead, Mike.
There we go. From the tribal perspective, I don't know that we've got anything specific to this project. I am a little cautious, I guess, on a 14-day comment period, unless you can get a lot of word out before that comes up. I'm just thinking, I get tons and tons of emails, and I may get to something that was a week later than when it was sent out, and then have to then think about what my comments might be, or I have to do my research. So that would be the only thing I'd be a little leery of just 2 weeks. Ideally, maybe 30 days if that can fit in. But I think it all depends on how much word you get out before you even start your comment period. So as much information as you can would be great. But otherwise, the information you guys provided today is great. I want to kudos to everybody who's done so much work on this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.
I have a couple of thoughts. One, I guess I'll pose it in the form of a question. If planting seasons and restoration work that's not something that can be timed at any month of the year. So timing is, a timing blip or glitch can mean a 1 year setback. And so in the restoration sense, to maximize the returns for habitat, silviculturally and otherwise, missing a window can mean a lot, and so that may justify some of that urgency in people's mind if I'm seeing that correctly.
Well, I'll just say that the sense of urgency is real for a variety of reasons. I don't think it's to the point that additional 2 weeks would make or break the ability to keep it on the intended site, which would change the trajectory of the cycle per se.
The other kind of conversation point I think should be just elucidate what this investment is for recreation and interpretation in this site and the scenic and cultural values here. There's a lot of volume, in timber available for other options. And, these plans have evolved over time from, a lot more aggressive harvest potential down to shifting and investment in these other returns in GPV. So, I don't know, what utility that would serve in the public's mind if they had an insight into, what early concepts were, what potentially there were, and how these decisions ended up, making a substantial investment. The counties who are going to forego certain amount of revenue, making a substantial investment in these other values.
Thanks for that, Barrett. So with the time remaining, we can use it as folks have additional feedback to give us, but that's the intention, was just to provide, enough space for you all to share whatever it was that resonated with you or thoughts, for us to continue as we move forward. Andy's got his hand up.
I do. Thanks, Ron. Just wanted to add just a little bit of additional context. The importance of the I&E work, the interpretation and education work, has come up a couple times in the conversation. I'm glad it has, and doing our best to take advantage of this opportunity is a great stride. I think it will pay huge dividends, but also just want to recognize that the breadth of our I&E staff that's doing this work is her name is Denise Berkshire. she's a team of one. And just full disclosure around, there's a lot of things we're trying to do with the talent that Denise provides. And so it's definitely shifted to try and use her expertise to help us frame this work up on the Santiam, as well as a look forward and what that could be, as well as everything else we try to do at the Tillamook Forest Center. So just, trying to set expectations accordingly of what we can do, and not trying to stretch that rubber band any tighter than is humanly possible. Because anyway, just recognition that Denise has a lot of work on her plate and is doing an outstanding job here. But right now, that team is a team of one. We've got a vacancy there at the Forest Center. And so she's doing an amazing job. Well, I should say she's doing an amazing couple of jobs. So just did not want to leave this call without calling that out. And recognizing that. So as we think through, efforts going forward and involvement and stuff like that, we'll be limited in what we can do, just given the amount of capacity we have there. Anyway, and others on this call that are closer to that than I am, feel free to weigh in. But I wanted to recognize that and try and characterize that as accurately as I could.
Thanks for sharing that, Andy. So I guess I would offer, if there's any of the staff who presented today or have knowledge, that are here about things we may not have clarified, to the committee that you've heard come out in the conversations that you wanted to add in before we left today, there's an opportunity here to pause and do that.
Yes, I would add, Ron, just to clarify on that first kind of update of the 21, and how I said the first 10 timber sales sold with an average stumpage of 465. Just kind of wanted to get into the details maybe a little more on that. That's roughly $600 a thousand when we were first selling post-fire timber sales, compared to the last FY21 that sold for $100 a thousand on the Doug fir and $10 a thousand on the hemlock. So just the awareness that the burned wood is deteriorating quickly, and to add to that sense of urgency for the phase 1 part of the 22 AOP, with the Elk Foot and West 7 Mile sales being still post-fire sales. The quickly deteriorating wood and diminishing stumpage rates make things need to happen quickly.
That's a very good point to bring out, Kyle, and it also was one of the key factors in why we broke the AOP up into 2 phases, because we knew this was going to take an extra amount of messaging and work, yet it was really a small amount of the volume associated with the 22 AOP. So we moved the first part forward so they could begin to, complete those sales and get them out there onto the market while we were working through this, smaller forest project that was going to take, quite a lot of effort. Okay. Anyone else? There's no one else from staff. Barrett, I turn it over.
Liz, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, the old fashioned.
Okay.
Sorry, using the hand up with the old fashioned way here. I just wanted to go back a little bit to the public engagement, public comment. I really listening to all that, and we really explored that a couple, we thought through that quite a bit, but this feedback is really important. And And like I think Ron said, a couple weeks isn't going to change the urgency at all. You know, our sense of urgency, 2 weeks isn't going to have a big impact on what we need to do out there. But when we opened up, we talked about this process as kind of a case study. Let's see how this works. We have this area that we know is going to be controversial. It really just is. Given the multiple resources there that kind of all come together in one spot, right? The conservation areas, wildlife habitat, protecting streams, recreational opportunities, and timber generating revenue through the sale of timber. So truly all coming together. And the truth is, and y'all know this as well as anyone, that's the life we live. I mean, every AOP, we have sales like that. And it's become increasingly difficult to work our way through those with our normal, I'm going to call it public process. We put together our AOP, we put it out for public review and have a much longer public comment period. And that's, you know, that has just been really challenging over the past few years. So really the work we are trying to do here is to see if there's another way. And recognizing, just in that vein of controlling expectations, that we aren't going to be able to do to meet this kind of standard on all of our timber sales, right, every year. But I would envision that these ones that really, where multiple, you know, elements of greatest permanent value all come together, that they would be candidates for having a more involved process and really getting more information out on the table for the public. So we'll see how it goes. I think we will learn a lot through this process with you all, and then expanding it to stakeholders in general, working with the county partners. And we'll see, hopefully there's something like this that we can continue to do as the years unfold, as the AOPs continue to come out. And the intent would be to come up with better products. You know, it isn't just a matter, we really, you know, what we're hearing from the public is it feels a little bit like a rubber stamp by the time it comes through completing the public comment period. And it is a genuine effort on our part to move away from that. But again, I think that it's going to be most useful on sales like this, but it also hones the public's attention into this type of work and may give the impression that this is kind of, you know, writ large, the world that we're living in. But there are sales that don't have all this controversy. And those are the ones that Kyle put together and the planning team put together in the phase 1, really those that we would consider less controversial. So yeah, and again, the thinking on the shorter public comment period, and Ron, you may have said this and I missed it, but was that it's down to one sale, spending this kind of time with folks. Maybe there's less time needed, but the point is well taken, that there's a lot of people that are still going to need to do their own research and thinking about it that haven't had a chance to sit through some of these meetings. So fun to share that.
Susan's got her hand up again.
You know, Susan, yeah, defense, your little hand shows up in a spot where I cannot see it. It's in your curtain and I'll find something to blame.
That's okay. If you didn't answer, I would have spoke up. I'm not a wallflower, so.
Great, Susan.
Good. Yeah, I just want to reiterate what you said, but the really important part is you are doing this. And I really think that this is going to be something that you don't just use on this particular sale. This is going to show folks with all the monitoring and stuff that you're doing, that this is the reasons why we do things, or and this is the effects of those. I think that this really will help, like I said, tell the story. And because I really think that's the one thing that forest industry folks do the worst is to tell the story and to show people why you do things. I will always remember a field trip that I went on after I had marked a sale, and it had been logged, and we had left wildlife trees. And I kept hearing that, well, the Forest Service was clear cutting all the time. And we took those folks up there, and people looked around and go, well, you didn't cut all the trees. You left a lot of trees. Well, yeah, because we never were very good at telling our story or showing people what our story is. And so I think using this as a way to tell the story, it won't just involve this sale, it'll involve a lot of the work that you do in the future. And the more that you can do that, and it's not like you have to do it on every sale, but I think that if you can show folks the reason you do things and what it looks like and what it means to the future, I think you're better off. So I applaud you for the effort that you're putting into this, and maybe a little extra time will pay off in the future. I mean, this is one sale. It's not like the entire program. So I think that's how you need to look at it. This is a small boost to get people there. And the more you can talk about it, and because I think this presentation was great. And I think if people saw that and saw pictures, or, you know, you offer a field trip now and then. I know with COVID, it's really hard, but I really think that's how you spread the word. I think word of mouth works better than just about anything else that you can do. So that's my 2 cents.
Terrific, thanks. Yeah, well, this group, this was a great presentation, and of course, you know, we're obliged as committee members to try and reach out to in our sphere of influence to share some of this information. And I think SFAC will be even more effective over time in our regular, larger, more largely attended meetings where we have even more diverse views here. So this format, yeah, I look forward to having us put to even more use like this. And I regret we weren't able to get some more folks here today, but that's understandable.
Okay, well, thank you, Barrett, and everyone. Jason's going to be following up very shortly, you know, with that survey. I am also going to reach out to a couple folks who weren't able to attend today that I've been in contact with to try and, you know, give them a little bit of additional context so that they can provide input as well. So that's all we have for you today. And again, really appreciate the time you've taken out of your work week or busy week to help us further this project along. So thank you very much.
Yep, I agree. Thanks everybody for attending. We'll look forward to seeing you all soon.
Everyone.
Nice work. Bye.